neudo pues.
Next, we had a boat.
Marisol Mercado, Gabriel Yanarico, Manuel
I did too, right? Like this?